Hey guys, in today's video I want to talk about the dangers of slow motion footage, and not so much when you record yourself and then watch your strokes in slow motion. This can be quite useful to see what you're doing, but I'm specifically talking about slow motion footage of professional players. Now let me explain to you what I mean by the dangers of slow motion footage. So many players will misinterpret certain parts of the professional players' technique. They will assume that these are consciously executed actions of the stroke. Now I'm just going to give you two examples, but there are many. So one example is the wrist lag on the forehand, something that is not visible in real time. In other words, if you watch Federer, Nadal or Djokovic play on TV, you don't see the wrist lag because it's happening in milliseconds and it's happening way too fast for us to see it with the naked eye. However, when we watch the stroke in slow motion footage, or even better, in super slow motion footage, we can see exactly what goes on with the human body at very specific moments of the stroke. And unfortunately, this can be misinterpreted by some players. So for example, the wrist lag on the forehand, players are not aware that it's taking place. And I'm going to make an argument that most professional players do not even know what the term wrist lag means, because it's completely executed intuitively. They're not realizing that the wrist is taking this particular shape in the forward phase of the swing. And why is this the case? Because the stroke accelerates so fast in that part of the stroke, it is simply too quick for us to be conscious of. So the danger of slow motion footage is that players will see the wrist lag in slow motion and they will try to recreate this, and the only way you can recreate that part of the stroke is to slow it down. So I've seen many players come to me for lessons and they're making what I call a fake wrist lag. They're slowing down or stopping the stroke right here to make this particular shape of the wrist happen, and as a result of that they have a major hitch in their forehand and they're severely hurting their timing and the power. So this is the danger of misinterpreting a certain portion of the stroke, because if you try to make the wrist lag happen and slow your stroke down to get this angle of the wrist, you are not only hurting your power and your timing, but you're also breaking all the momentum, all the continuity and the flow of the forehand, and most likely you're going to commit a lot of errors because of that. Now another danger of watching certain parts of the strokes in slow motion is pronation into the contact and continuing pronation. This is probably the one that's most popular at the recreational level. People will watch the pros like Federer, Nadal or Djokovic do the continuing pronation after the ball has been struck, and now they're trying to recreate this. And just like the forehand wrist lag, pronation into the contact and continuing pronation is a direct result of the correct fundamentals on the serve and serve acceleration. And just like the forehand, if you try to make this movement of the racket, what everybody's obsessed about, the continuing pronation, happen at a conscious level, you will only be able to do so if you slow your stroke severely down at the most crucial moment, which is the contact. So in order to execute this, you will have to slow down towards the contact and then make this movement of the hand. And not only will you interrupt the stroke, you will also reduce the range of motion and therefore abruptly end the stroke, but also it's going to make the timing of this pronation extremely difficult. You got to realize that pronation into the contact and continuing pronation is happening in milliseconds. So it's absolutely impossible to time these movements at a conscious level. This can only happen intuitively. And just like the forehand wrist lag, if you try to see with the naked eye pronation into the contact and continuing pronation, if you watch a match in real time, you will not be able to see it. And I'm going to make the argument again that most players never think about pronation. Some don't even know what it means. It's a completely intuitive process on the serve. And this is again a danger of watching slow motion footage, because you're trying to recreate something that happens in milliseconds and it's only visible when the strokes are slowed down. So what do you do instead? Don't worry about it. And in this case, I don't even want you to obsess about it when you watch yourself serve in slow motion. I have seen many students who obsess on the pronation into the contact and the continuing pronation. They're watching themselves, they're recording themselves, and they're wasting a lot of time because of that. I want you to check in on this particular thing maybe once or twice a year. That's enough. Don't worry about it. Just like the forehand wrist lag, Pronation into the contact and continuing pronation is a direct result of the correct fundamentals on the serve and serve acceleration. It's not something that you should ever concern yourself with. And besides players misinterpreting certain technical elements of strokes when they're viewing them in slow motion and then trying to recreate them in real time, there are other problems with slow motion. And if you look at me from this way, this is the most popular angle to record the elite players in slow motion. And one problem with this angle is that, first of all, you don't know the intention the player has. You also don't know whether the strokes that you're looking at are going in or out. You also have no idea at the directional control of the ball, and the strokes are also out of context. You don't know if it's a practice session or if it's a point play situation. So it's very difficult to analyze the strokes because of those reasons. So let me show you. I'm going to hit a few forehands. You have absolutely no idea where I'm hitting these balls. I could be hitting them inside in, inside out, and I might just be warming up and kind of relaxed and just not moving my feet very much, and my stroke will therefore change. So another danger of the slow motion footage is that it's out of context and it's not necessarily the real technique that players are using in match play. And also the most popular angle to record the serve in slow motion is this footage as well. Now when you see me serve from this angle, you have absolutely no idea whether I'm doing a first or a second serve. You have absolutely no idea where I'm directing the serve. And you also don't know if I'm putting slice on it, kick, or if I'm hitting it flat. So again, just like the other strokes, the serve is out of context, and if players try to copy certain technical elements, there might be some mistakes in their interpretation because of that. So here's an example. I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing, and you try to identify my serve. You have no idea whether I'm trying to spin the ball, you have no idea whether I'm trying to slice it, because you can't see the direction of the ball. And there's also limitations when viewing the serve from this angle when it comes to the toss and the swing path. Now I'm going to give you some tips how you can identify the serve by looking at it from this angle. So you can simply look at the location of the toss, whether it's way in front of the baseline or it's just slightly in front of the baseline, and also looking at the amount of torso rotation the player is doing. And by looking at those two things, you can differentiate from flat and slice and kick. So you might not necessarily be able to differentiate between a flat serve and a slice serve, but a kick serve is very distinguishable because you can always see the sideways position of the body, and usually it's going to be accompanied by a toss that's only slightly in front of the baseline. And guys, I think the solution is to get the slow motion footage from the big tournaments. I've seen some amazing slow motion footage from the Madrid Open, for example. They have those amazing high-speed cameras, or even from the Australian Open, and usually the slow motion is recorded from behind, and you can see the context of the game. You can even know what score it is, because that also matters in how players are executing their strokes, how they're playing their strokes under certain score lines. And we need to study that part of the players' games when they're playing their absolute best in those match situations. Unfortunately, practice sessions, the slow motion footage in those instances is often misleading, and it's not the real game of the players.